You know that feeling? You wake up, maybe the alarm hasn't even gone off yet, or maybe it just did, and before your eyes are even fully open, the weight of the day just lands on you.
Absolutely. It's that instant download of everything on your plate, that looming deadline, a difficult conversation you know you have to navigate, or maybe it's just the sheer volume of tasks ahead.
Or it could be a completely unexpected moment later in the day, a sudden piece of bad news, an intense interaction, something that just throws you completely off balance.
And in those moments, whether it's first thing or midday chaos, the immediate wish is often escape, isn't it? You just want to be anywhere but here.
Yeah.
Instantly transported to a quiet beach, or allowed 5 uninterrupted minutes to just grab a comforting coffee, or find a friend you can just unload on without feeling like a burden.
But life rarely pauses to give us that perfect, stress-free sanctuary right when we need it most. In fact, the inability to easily escape can make the stress feel even worse, especially if it's something you've been anticipating.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
like the dread compounds the actual pressure.
That anticipation is incredibly taxing. It can build up a physical and emotional load even before the event you're worried about has begun.
Well, today, we're taking a deep dive into some source material that offers a really practical, almost counterintuitive approach to this problem.
Mm-hmm.
We've got excerpts from a piece titled Quick Calm, 5 Stress-Relieving Steps.
Right. And this article presents something quite compelling because it addresses exactly that lack of time and space. It proposes 5 simple methods specifically designed to help you regain a sense of calmness and peace.
And the key is quick, right?
And the core promise is in the title.
Yeah.
They work quickly. Yeah.
Quick is the operative word here. The central premise is that these methods supposedly take only about 5 minutes.
It's just 5 minutes.
Crucially, they don't demand you become a morning person if you're not,
Right.
or carve out a huge block of time in your already packed schedule.
Hmm.
The idea is you can deploy them whenever that stress or anxiety starts to creep in proactively.
And the source material references the insights of someone described as a ritual designer named Abigail. Her perspective, as presented here, focuses specifically on the power of calming oneself before you get completely overwhelmed by negative emotions or anxious thoughts.
So, getting ahead of it.
Exactly. It's about creating small, intentional moments, almost micro rituals, to address that feeling at the very moment it arises, or perhaps even just before it fully takes hold and spins out of control.
Okay, let's really unpack this. Our mission in this deep dive is to thoroughly explore these 5 methods outlined in the source, understand the thinking and the rationale behind them, as presented in the material, and analyze how they claim to offer immediate peace through steps that, on the surface, sound incredibly simple
Yeah, almost too simple sometimes.
and easy to implement in real life. We're guiding you through a shortcut based on this source to potentially finding those essential moments of calm in your busy day.
It's about extracting the core insights and practical applications from this material, giving you potential tools you can potentially use right away without needing significant resources or time commitment.
So let's jump right into the first of these 5 methods. And this one starts, perhaps fittingly, right where many of us begin our day, or where stress might first hit if we wake up worried.
The first method is deep breathing, and the source has a very specific recommendation here. Do this while you're still comfortably in bed, ideally before you even physically get up.
That feels incredibly accessible right from the start. You don't have to
Yeah.
be anywhere special. You don't have to change clothes. You just have to be there exactly as you are.
Mm-hmm.
The source connects this immediate tool to the very physical experience of stress or intense emotions. Think about moments of anger or even just overwhelming excitement.
You know those physical cues your body sends? Maybe your hands or feet feel a little trembly,
An
shaky.
eerie feeling.
You get that distinct sensation of your body temperature rising quickly, feeling flushed or hot. And very commonly, you experience shortness of breath, that shallow chest breathing, that feeling like you can't quite get a full, satisfying breath in.
It's that almost automatic physiological alarm system going off. Your body reacts to the perceived emotional threat or intense feeling as if it were a physical danger.
Right. And the mechanism described in the source is that simply by consciously and deliberately breathing slowly and deeply, you can actively work to reduce those physical symptoms. The anxiety, the excessive excitement, the muscular tension that builds up.
Okay, so how do they say to actually do it?
Hmm.
The practice detailed is beautifully straightforward. While lying comfortably, You simply inhale deeply through your nose.
Through the nose, yeah.
The source specifically mentions inhaling through the nose to maximize oxygen supply, which is interesting. Then you exhale slowly through your mouth, just focusing on that simple, deliberate pattern.
And the claim from the source is that this singular, simple act of focused, deep breathing can be a significant help in controlling stress and its physical manifestations.
What's particularly insightful here is the sheer accessibility of it. This isn't a technique that requires equipment or a specific environment. It's available to you anytime, anywhere you can pause for a moment.
Totally.
The analytical point highlighted is precisely its immediate physical impact. By deliberately focusing on and slowing your breath, you're directly engaging with your autonomic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that handles involuntary actions.
Like breathing, heart rate.
Breathing, heart rate, and digestion, and which goes into overdrive during stress responses like fight or flight.
Exactly. When you're stressed, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, increasing heart rate, quickening breath. But by consciously slowing your breathing, particularly the exhale, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system.
Okay, the calming one.
Right. This sends a signal to your brain and body that the perceived threat is lessening, counteracting that stress response that causes the trembling, the heat, the rapid, shallow breathing. It's a fundamental biological feedback loop you can consciously influence.
It's leveraging our body's own systems for calm. The source underscores how simply altering this most basic function, breathing, can begin to interrupt that physical stress loop almost instantly. It's a powerful, always available reminder of the profound connection between our mind and our physical state, starting with something as simple as an inhale and exhale.
It doesn't get more foundational than that, really.
Okay, let's move on to the second method described in the source. This one feels particularly relevant for those moments where the stress feels like it's coming from external pressures, like work.
Yes, the source speaks to those common workplace triggers. Maybe you're feeling the pressure of competing for a chance to present a project, or you have that big meeting where you're reporting to superiors and the stakes feel high,
Oh, yeah.
or just that pervasive general work-related pressure that can make even starting your day feel incredibly heavy and overwhelming.
And when those pressures mount, your thoughts often start racing, don't they? They jump ahead to future outcomes, potential failures, all those what-if scenarios.
Precisely. Your mind gets pulled out of the present moment, hijacked by anxieties about things that haven't even happened yet.
So what's the counter?
And the second method presented in the source is a simple sensory meditation.
Sensory meditation. Okay, how does the source describe the practice for this? What does it involve?
It's about deliberately noticing everything you can perceive with your five senses in that exact moment. You consciously register what you can see, hear, smell, taste, and feel right here, right now.
So the goal isn't necessarily to empty your mind, which can feel impossible when you're stressed, but rather to intentionally direct your awareness to the immediate present through your physical senses.
That's it, exactly. The intent is to concentrate your attention entirely on your senses, truly listening to the input your body is receiving in this specific moment, in this specific environment. What textures are you feeling? What subtle sounds are present? What visual details stand out?
And what happens when, inevitably, those anxious thoughts about the presentation or the meeting start to barge back in? Because they definitely will.
Right, they always do. The source is realistic about that. It anticipates the mind will wander. The instruction is not to get frustrated or judge yourself, but simply to gently yet firmly bring your attention back to your senses whenever your thoughts drift away from the present moment.
Gently guide it back.
Yeah. It's not about fighting the thoughts or trying to suppress them, but rather acknowledging them briefly and then deliberately redirecting your focus back to what you can perceive through sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell.
So if I'm trying this before walking into a meeting and my mind races to, what if I forget my lines? I just notice that thought and then gently shift my focus back to, say, the temperature of the air on my skin or the specific pattern on the carpet or the distant hum of the building.
That's precisely the technique described. Just guide your awareness back to the immediate tangible reality of what you can see, hear, feel, smell, or even taste in that very second.
Okay.
And the claimed outcome from the source for practicing this, even for just a few minutes, is quite specific and intriguing. Your eyes and head are said to feel noticeably cooler and lighter.
Cooler and lighter eyes and head. That's a fascinating physical sensation to result from a mental exercise. How does the source explain that physical manifestation?
Well, the source ties this to the act of grounding the mind. When our thoughts are racing with future anxieties or past regrets, Our mental energy feels scattered and perhaps even creates a sense of internal pressure or heat in the head.
Yeah, that makes sense.
By deliberately anchoring your attention in the present moment through your senses, you are essentially bringing that scattered mental energy back into focus, centering your awareness.
So the analytical point here is how profoundly grounding oneself in the present moment through the senses can help you detach, even just temporarily, from those overwhelming thoughts that are tied to the future or the past.
Exactly.
Your senses are inherently rooted only in the now. By focusing there, you disrupt the cycle of worry.
Exactly. You're using the undeniable reality of your immediate physical experience to pull yourself out of the hypothetical or the historical. It's a cognitive shift facilitated by physical awareness. You are consciously choosing to anchor yourself in here and now, which the source implies feels physically lighter and cooler compared to carrying the psychological weight of what if or if only scenarios that heat up the mind.
It's a powerful form of cognitive redirection. Instead of trying to battle the anxious thoughts directly, you're simply saying to your brain, look at this incredibly detailed present reality instead of spiraling about that uncertain future. You're redirecting the mental traffic flow.
And it's a simple, non-judgmental way to acknowledge the thoughts but refuse to get carried away by them. You just keep bringing your awareness back to the sensory inputs. Simple, but potentially very effective.
All right, switching gears from the mental and sensory realm, let's move on to something more explicitly physical for the third method in this source. This one addresses that feeling of being stiff, sluggish, or just physically weighed down that stress can sometimes bring on.
That's a common experience. Stress doesn't just affect your mind. It can make your body feel heavy, tense, and resistant to movement. The third method is straightforward. Get up and move. And the source has a specific action it recommends: jumping.
Jumping, like literally hopping up and down.
Yes, the term used in the source is ovud klias, which translates to hopping or bouncing. This method introduces some interesting concepts, drawing parallels to ideas found in Hinduism and some Buddhist traditions.
Oh, okay.
The source discusses chakras, which are often described as energy centers or channels within the body.
Okay, energy centers or channels. The source also brings in the Korean term gi, which is a concept deeply rooted in East Asian philosophies, often translated as vital energy, life force, or spirit.
Right. The perspective presented in the source linking these ideas is that when you're experiencing stress or intense negative emotions, this natural energy flow, this gi or energy in the chakras, can get blocked. It's like a physical or energetic stagnation occurs.
And they provide a very relatable analogy for what this blocked energy can feel like in the body.
Yes, they mention that very common feeling of tightness or pressure in the chest.
Right.
This sensation is sometimes referred to in Korean as uwabyung. The source describes uwabyung as an illness or physical symptom arising from accumulated anger, frustration, or resentment that hasn't been expressed or released.
Wow.
It manifests as this uncomfortable chest constriction or pressure.
So the physical stiffness, the sluggishness, or that feeling of having a tight chest when stressed might, from this perspective, be seen as that blocked energy or accumulated emotional tension manifesting physically.
Precisely. The energy isn't flowing freely, and you feel it as physical discomfort or heaviness. The source even offers a simple, immediate test you can do right now to get a sense of this tension. Clench your fist tightly, hold it, and then consciously unclench it.
Okay, yeah, I can feel it.
You can feel the tension build up and then release.
That is a very tangible demonstration of physical tension. So if someone is feeling this physical weight or tightness, this blocked negative energy, what is the action recommended by the source?
The instruction is deliberate and active. When you feel that weighed down sensation, that stagnation, make yourself move. The source suggests dancing, or specifically jumping or hopping.
Just get moving.
Get moving. The claim is that this physical action alone can disrupt the blockage and release the tension.
Jumping or dancing to release blocked energy and tension. The analysis point here is powerful because it emphasizes the immediate mind-body connection.
It really does.
It highlights how conscious physical action can directly disrupt that mental or emotional stagnation that the source describes as blocked energy flow, or that physical tension we experience as a result of stress.
It's a very kinetic countermeasure. Instead of trying to sit still with the tension or intellectualize your way out of it, you are using physical force, literally shaking things up to get things moving again.
Yeah.
Beyond the physiological release of endorphins that movement provides, which is well documented, the source frames it within this energetic perspective. You are physically breaking through that supposed stagnation, encouraging the vital energy to flow freely again. That tightness in the chest, the physical sluggishness, the act of jumping or dancing, is presented as a direct way to interrupt that state.
It's using the body as the primary tool to influence the mind and emotional state. It's an immediate active intervention. You're not passively waiting for the tension to subside. You're actively moving it, propelling it out of your system through physical expression.
And it's a method that specifically requires getting out of the internal loop of worrying thoughts and into the physical reality of your body and its potential for movement, a real shift.
Let's move on to the fourth method presented in the source, which shifts our focus back towards our thoughts, but with a very specific, intentional direction.
This method begins by citing an interesting statistic. An average healthy adult has over 6,000 thoughts a day.
6,000 thoughts. That's an incredible amount of mental chatter and traffic constantly running through our minds.
It truly is. And on those particularly busy, stressful, or challenging days, that number can feel even higher, and a significant portion of those thoughts can be negative, critical, or anxiety-inducing.
Yeah, easily.
The source argues that precisely on such days, when your mental landscape is so crowded and potentially negative, it becomes necessary to intentionally and deliberately direct your thoughts towards things that are positive, that lift you up, and that bring you joy.
So it's about actively curating and gardening your mental landscape rather than letting the weeds of negative thoughts take over.
Exactly. You need to plant some positive seeds. And the fourth method proposed is remarkably simple in its execution. Writing down just 3 things you are grateful for.
3 things. That feels incredibly manageable, doesn't it? It doesn't sound like a daunting task, like starting a massive daily journal that you might quickly abandon.
That manageability is absolutely key to its quick, calm premise. The source specifically emphasizes that this is not about a full-blown gratitude journal or a lengthy writing exercise.
No pressure then.
No pressure. It's simply identifying and listing 3 specific things. And the source suggests, is possible, making this one of the very first things you think about or even jot down upon waking.
What kind of things are they suggesting we be grateful for? Does it have to be something monumental?
Not at all, and this is where the source provides some wonderfully relatable and accessible examples. They suggest being grateful for something as simple as good weather outside your window,
Okay.
or for a loved one in your life, or for a beautiful flower you might have seen on a walk the day before.
Or even something as simple and relatable as the fact that Saturday is only 3 days away.
Yeah.
I can definitely find gratitude for that on a tough Wednesday morning.
Exactly. The source strongly stresses that you can find things to be grateful for in everything, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant it might appear. The point is the recognition and acknowledgement.
And is there a preferred way to actually write them down? Does it matter if you type it or handwrite it?
The source does include a practical tip here. It mentions that handwriting is generally preferred over typing. There's something about the physical act of forming the letters that can feel more intentional or grounding for some people. However, the source is very pragmatic about this, noting that using your phone's memo pad or a quick note-taking app is vastly, significantly better than not writing them down at all.
So don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Exactly. The crucial element is the externalization, getting those 3 thoughts out of your head and into a physical or digital space.
So the power is really in the deliberate act of identifying, focusing on, and recording these positive things, rather than the specific medium you use to do it.
Right. The underlying principle and the analytical insight is quite powerful. On days when you have thousands of thoughts, many of them potentially negative or contributing to stress, the simple, intentional act of directing your cognitive load towards just 3 positive things is a form of deliberate mental control and reframing.
It's like consciously shifting the lens through which you view your immediate reality, even if that reality still contains stressors. You're choosing to see the light alongside the shadows.
Precisely. It's about actively recognizing the good that already exists in your life, regardless of the external circumstances you're facing at that moment.
Yeah. And that very act of recognition, of cataloging even small moments of joy or comfort, can fundamentally change your perspective. It creates a positive anchor for your thoughts, giving them something uplifting to land on amidst the mental chaos.
It's a conscious, actionable interruption of negative thought patterns, deliberately redirecting your internal dialogue towards appreciation and positivity.
Yeah.
And as you said, incredibly accessible, just a moment and something to make a note with.
It's a small intervention with the potential for a disproportionately large positive impact on your mindset. Definitely worth trying.
Finally, the fifth method in the source brings in a unique scent smell. This one feels quite distinct from the others.
It does. And the source leads with a fascinating claim about the sense of smell. It is presented as the only one of the five senses that is directly linked to controlling emotions.
That's a very strong claim, the only one. Does the source provide a basis or explanation for this unique connection? Yes, it does. It explains the connection through neuroanatomy. The olfactory nerve, which is the nerve responsible for processing smells, has a very direct pathway to the brain's limbic system.
Ah, the limbic system. That's a critical area of the brain, isn't it? Heavily involved in processing things like mood, memory formation, motivation, and critically, emotion.
Exactly. The source emphasizes that this direct neural pathway from the olfactory bulb to structures within the limbic system, such as the amygdala, involved in emotional processing, and the hippocampus, involved in memory, is what gives smell its unique and potent power over our feelings.
So it's like a fast track.
It bypasses some of the more circuitous routes other senses take.
Yeah, a fast track is a good way to put it.
And there are research findings cited in the source to back this up.
Yes, the source references research indicating that a significant percentage, 75% of our daily emotions are triggered by smell.
Wow, 75%?
Yeah. The explicit takeaway provided is that because of this direct link, smell possesses an inherent and powerful ability to move or influence our emotions.
75%. If nearly 3/4 of our daily emotional shifts can be influenced by scent, that makes this method sound incredibly impactful and fast-acting.
It highlights just how deeply connected our sense of smell is to our emotional state, often on an unconscious level initially.
Right.
And building on that, the source gives a specific statistic about the benefit of using pleasant scents. It claims that simply smelling a pleasant scent can improve your mood by a notable 40%.
A 40% mood improvement from just a smell. That sounds almost too good to be true, but if the science on the limbic system link is accurate, it certainly suggests a powerful mechanism is at play.
It is substantial. The source suggests leveraging this direct pathway by using specific essential oils for stress relief, either as you're preparing for the day or whenever you feel stress begin to rise.
Are there particular oils mentioned, and are specific benefits attributed to them in the source?
Yes, the source lists 4 specific essential oils and describes their purported effects. Lemon oil is claimed to promote energy and act as a natural mood booster.
Okay, lemon for energy. Grapefruit oil is said to help in overcoming depressive moods. Spearmint oil is listed as specifically relieving mental tension and fatigue.
Spearmint for tension.
And lavender oil is presented as stabilizing the mind and promoting a happy mood. Probably the most well-known one for calm.
So, based on the source, you might choose a specific scent depending on the type of emotional shift you're seeking, whether you need a lift in energy, relief from tension, or a general sense of happiness and stability.
Right. And the analysis point here, as the source presents it, strongly reinforces that scientific basis we discussed. That very direct, rapid pathway between olfaction and the brain's emotional centers makes smell an incredibly powerful and fast-acting tool for quick emotional shifts. When you inhale a scent, those chemical compounds go almost directly to the parts of your brain that process feelings and memories, potentially triggering an emotional response much faster than, say, talking yourself through a problem or trying to reason your way out of a negative feeling.
It's an almost immediate sensory input that bypasses slower cognitive processes and can directly influence your internal emotional state.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily thinking your way to a different mood. You're experiencing a physical sensation, smell, that triggers an emotional response or shift, leveraging that ancient biological wiring.
It's harnessing one of our most primal senses for modern stress relief. A few deep breaths of the right scent, according to the source, can have a significant rapid impact.
So let's quickly recap the 5 distinct, yet incredibly simple methods presented in this source for finding quick calm in under 5 minutes.
Okay. We've explored the power of deep breathing, especially first thing. Then focusing your awareness on your senses in the present moment through sensory meditation.
Getting grounded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Engaging in physical movement like jumping or dancing to shake things off, intentionally writing down just 3 things you're grateful for.
Just 3.
And finally, leveraging the direct link between smell and emotion by using essential oils.
5 very different pathways. Physical, sensory, cognitive, even biochemical, all designed to serve the same purpose. The core message from the source is clear and empowering. These aren't complicated therapies or lengthy practices.
No, none of that.
They are quick, accessible tools, each taking supposedly under 5 minutes, designed to help you regain a sense of calm and peace immediately when stress or overwhelm begins to hit, even in the middle of a packed, demanding day or right as it begins.
They underscore the practicality for you, the listener, right now. These are things you could potentially implement today using resources that are readily available. Your own breath, your body and senses, a pen and paper, or your phone's memo pad,
Or maybe a bottle of lavender oil?
or perhaps a few drops of essential oil if you have them on hand.
Exactly.
They don't require you to find a dedicated hour or retreat to a quiet mountaintop. They are interventions for the moments you need them most, designed to interrupt the stress cycle before it fully takes hold, as ritual designer Abigail's perspective suggests. They offer a menu of options, allowing you to potentially choose the tool that feels most accessible or most needed in any given moment, whether your stress feels primarily physical, mental, or emotional. There's likely something here for most situations.
This has been a truly fascinating deep dive into these quick, calm methods presented in the source material. Thank you for joining us as we've explored these steps.
It's been insightful to unpack how such simple, readily available techniques are proposed as powerful interventions for managing stress in the moment. Really practical stuff.
As you move through the rest of your day, or perhaps prepare for tomorrow, consider the potential, according to the source, of just 5 minutes of intentional focus on one of these simple, accessible practices.
Sure, 5 minutes.
Think about the profound impact that choosing one of these micro-rituals, whether it's something physical like conscious breathing or a quick jump, mental like focusing on gratitude, or since like grounding yourself in the moment or inhaling a calming scent could potentially have on shifting your state. The source makes a compelling case that these small shifts can even change the trajectory of your entire day.
This deep dive raises an important practical question for you to consider. Out of these 5 quick, calm methods described in the source, which one small, accessible tool will you commit to trying the very next time stress starts to bubble up?